A very warm welcome. You're joining us with another episode of Spotlight on AdaDerana 24. In today's program, I have with me one of the senior most officials of the defense hierarchy of Sri Lanka. In December last year, this official was elevated to a 3-star admiral and was appointed the 25th commander of Sri Lanka Navy by President Ranil Wickremesinghe. A very warm welcome to you, sir, Vice Admiral Priyantha Perera, Commander of Sri Lanka Navy.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much inviting me and giving this opportunity to have a discussion with you. Thank you.
Sri Lanka Navy, also known as the Defenders of the Sea. Can you please explain us about the current military strength of Sri Lanka Navy in terms of weaponry power and manpower?
Yes, on land, the island is divided into 7 naval commands: Western Naval Command, the Southern Naval Command, Southeastern Naval Command, Eastern Naval Command, the Northern Naval Command, then North Central Naval Command, and Northwestern Naval Command. So that is the land geography, how we are based on the island. But these commands also are responsible for sea areas. So Southeastern Naval Command is responsible, but unfortunately they don't have harbor up to now. But rest of the naval commands, they have their own facilities to have vessels and the craft berth and carry out operations on their own for the maritime security deployments. We have a fleet of offshore patrol vessels. These are our major vessels which can operate up to high seas. That's distance-wise up to about 1,000 nautical miles and back, and can stay at sea perhaps for a period of 1 month if required. So it has the fuel, the other requirements, the food, everything, water. Obviously, we have the osmosis plants to make water out of seawater. So then, literally, we have our fast attack craft, then the inshore patrol craft, all these to see that we keep the security, maritime security of our territorial sea, and to a certain extent even in the exclusive economic zone. But that is seaward security. But this alone will not provide us the capacity to prevent nefarious activities coming out of, emanating out of sea, coming to shore. So, we have to have surveillance arrangement and even presence right along the coast so that we can prevent if these traffickers or smugglers, they try to come in, to prevent them landing and then arrest there. So, we have our marine domain awareness systems, basically the surveillance system, the radars, and then other optical systems that we can monitor to a range about 50 nautical miles, depending on the capacities of the radars, 50 nautical miles, 20 nautical miles, or 25 nautical miles. So basically, the right around the island is covered in that sense. So we have the headquarters organization here as as the Commander of the Navy, Chief of Staff, and the Board of Management is the Director General of various department disciplines in the Navy, and also those 7 area commanders and some of the directors. So that's basically about the structure of the Navy and our capacities. We have an approximate 47,000 strength in the Navy as at present.
Navy intelligence is regarded as one of the best intelligences of tri-forces. So, what is the current role of Navy intelligence in protecting the country from external and internal threats?
I've told you about the marine domain awareness. This is about knowing what is happening around your seas. So, you can have the electronic picture about all the vessels. For example, majority of our fishing fleets are now fixed with vessel monitoring system. About 3,200, 300 fishing vessels are now fixed. They are also being fixed with these gadgets so that the monitoring is possible. And then you need to know about other vessels, the traffic, the normal the maritime traffic of our seas. But although this electronic marine domain picture is available to you, you need to do a lot of analysis on this. Exiting issues like illegal migrations, you need to follow up with the networks, because all these, for example, if you look at the narcotic trafficking, it's a huge network. Similarly, the illegal migrations. And you need to follow up on ground what is happening the moment that find some connection, then you follow up on this and develop your information and then analysis and the intelligence, then you can prevent this happening. Similarly, about the narcotic trafficking, as I said, the huge network, you have to start from the scratch, when you hear probably something about them, then follow up on that and build up the information, and if it is a viable intelligence, then we take action on that. Then that's how the Navy has been so far so much successful about seizing and arresting huge volumes of narcotics that are being trafficked. So the intelligence, the Directorate of the Intelligence is the key player to give us this information. Obviously, we have to have our resources to do the patrolling and then the arrest, but this is important. So then, not only that, even on the ground, say, when it comes to from the north side, you have large quantities of Kerala cannabis being trafficked. So similarly, the informations that they develop, allow us to track them and then arrest them. So I think in our deployment, we're probably about 30-40% successful, but that is not to say that the remainder is impossible, but we need to build up a capacity, and then also have, I was telling you about our show based observations, our presence, these are all important to prevent them. And I hope that one day that we would be more efficient and effective with more capacity, intelligence-wise, the domain awareness-wise, and the presence right along the coast, so that we can prevent such things happening. So the intelligence is very important.
At the moment, there is no war in Sri Lanka, but yet there can be internal and external threats to the country. So how do you think that these intelligence numbers can be increased to better tackle these all threats as a Triforce commander based on your experience?
You see, we moved out from the conflict that we have had, the protracted conflict, which ran over 30 years. That base for us, it was a literal warfare that we were fighting with a de facto Navy, I would say, right? Because as it developed later on, it was face-to-face confrontation. But, moved on from that conflict to the other, we still, our major role in the Navy is ensuring the maritime security of our seas, and preventing any security threat to the national security when you take the island. So although there is no a combating conflict, we have to right alone. The city arminators there also, but now with the conflict over, we have seen that the amount of these nefarious activities at sea threatening the national security rapidly increasing. So we have to stop that. So that is our current challenge, as I told you earlier, of which to a great extent we are successful. But we need to improve ourselves, as I told you, with all those capacity building, so that we can actually make sort of like zero penetration, when you say the maritime security or in the other concept, the zero penetration probably is not an achievable state, but say at least to an 80% success rate if we can bring, that's a great level for an island nation like that. So intelligence and all the other elements, our resources, float resources, the ships, the craft and all, and the rest of the capacities, these ships, when you put them out to sea, you have to huge infrastructure to maintain those ships. That is why that you need, when I said our strength is somewhere around 47, it doesn't speak that the huge volume of that is at sea. No, maintain that the capacity. We need about 2/3 of the capacity that you have based on these vessels on the ground to maintenance, repairs and other associate activities to run the Navy.
So what is the level of cooperation with other countries in the region in tackling these issues? If we just say about the Indo-Pacific security, which is a widely discussed topic, so how is Navy cooperating with the navies of other countries in maintaining the maritime security in the region?
Yes. This concept of Indo-Pacific probably came about some 6-7 years back. For us, probably still remain the Indian Ocean. That is not to say that we are not involved or connected with the Indo-Pacific concept, because the Indo-Pacific is more for external players in the Indian Ocean, and also has the influence of the other areas. So from the Western Indian Ocean to the Central Indian Ocean to the East Indian Ocean, that is to the Indonesia, Singapore, those island side. Beyond is the Pacific. It's nebulous, where the extent of Pacific, all the way to the west coast of United States and South America. So our concerns, probably our strategic concern is not so much towards those ends, but ours mostly within the Indian Ocean, because for us, we were talking about narcotic trafficking, which affects our national security, which originates within the Indian Ocean. But with the other players, for example, India, Pakistan, United States, Australia, China, they all have their major interest, and they are connected so much with the Indo-Pacific concept. So we have to have very friendly, cooperative connections with them, which we had right alone. And as you said, we are getting tremendous assistance, supports right throughout to develop to what we are today. When I joined the Navy, for me to obtain what we call the ocean navigation certificate, you have to do all the star shooting and then ability to find the ship without all the electronic navigation systems. So all we talk about, the far seas are probably about 20 nautical miles from the shore. So we were basically trained and developed to face the conflict, and we were very successful and effective on that. But the today's Navy is gone way beyond that. We are so much a professional Navy today, in par with any of the other navies. And we cross-exercise with them. Right throughout the year, number of exercises that take place between those navies and our Navy, which in turn over the years have made us very capable maritime professional body. When we look at the operational concept, the capacity with our principal ships, we are in parallel, can operate in same level. You know, if one point, if we are to work with the Indian Navy or the American US Navy or the Australian Navy or any other Navy, and we are in level that, you know, we can operate alongside those vessels with the same understanding, because the professional levels are equal. So it is important, the building up of the maritime security, as you said, the connection. So so much of assistance that is coming from, you know, I was mentioning about exercises. With US, there are a number of exercises for a year, and sometimes once in 2 years. Carrot, for example. Then with India, the and Maldives, the Trinix exercise, and also there is Pacific Rim exercise, the US, Australia, and number of other navies. And all these exercises gives us the professionals that I was talking about. And apart from that, these connections allow us to develop our maritime domain awareness capacity. When we are talking about the maritime security, we were discussing earlier, awareness of what is happening around our seas is very much important to us, as well as the other players, the powers involving in this ocean. White shipping, which is all painted, that you know about, like the aircrafts traveling over the globe, is you know at any particular moment of time, you know where the aircraft is. Likewise, we have the sea vision and other maritime traffic systems to know where the vessels are. Now, these are white shipping. You know exactly where they are because they emit their positions. But then there are other vessels you don't know. For example, we were talking about the fishing vessels. Unless that the vessel is carrying its weapon vessel monitoring system, you don't know what it is. Likewise, there are a number of other vessels, the fishing vessels and the vessels engaging in various nefarious activities, illegal activities. They don't carry position indicator. You don't know them. So these are dark shipping, and these are the ships that you need to be concerned about. So this is knowing all this is your maritime domain awareness capacity. So we get the assistance from our friendly nations in building up of this capacity. Right now we have our radar system and others, and it will be further improved. Now there is this multi-sectoral development capacity building support coming from US, for example. And also the India has helped us in our marine domain awareness systems. And also there are the fusion centers and similar domain awareness centers of the other countries. So, we can exchange information about certain things, so that, if there are certain vessels that we need to know about and need to get information, those countries that are monitoring in their maritime domain awareness, can help us. This is more or less how the Navy is being supported by other navies within the Indian Ocean and the Indo-Pacific region. It's not that they are single interest or the strategic interest. It is common interest. And you see our strategic location is, there is no doubt about, the importance of our location. Dondra, the down south, on the seas, where the thickest line of what we say in our parlance, the sea lines of communication. And on a day, in average, about 300 merchant ships are passing. So this is the east-west shipping lane. And if there are any challenge on maritime security in our region, it is our failure. We are obliged to maintain the maritime security in this region so that these shipping can ply up and down without any security incidents. In the past, especially during 2010-11, the level of piracy along the Horn of Africa on the east coast of the African continent was so much, and then the UN and the other maritime forces to operate combined forces. Even right now there are combined maritime forces to ensure the maritime security for those vessels plying on those sea routes, preventing those vessels attacked by the Somalian pirates. So we cannot afford to have similar levels in our water. So that is our international obligations. We are obliged to maintain this maritime security. So it's not our role is not only to ensure the national security and prevent anything that affect the national security coming from the sea, but we have this international obligation as well. So along with that comes what we call the MRCC, the Maritime Rescue Coordination Center. All the coastal countries in the world have a particular sector that they are responsible in a case of a accident or for example, let's say somebody falls overboard. So that coastal state is responsible to run and manage search period for about 48 hours. So ours goes about 700 nautical miles south of our southern coast. It's a large area. So for this also the capacity building support now comes. All these times we didn't have all the necessary equipment to carry out an effective MRCC, the Maritime Rescue Coordinating Center's job. But hopefully this year we'll have a very sophisticated system fixed with the Indian assistance. So this is how the other navies helps us. One thing to ensure that the maritime security in our responsible sea area, and ensure that the Navy is capable of protecting our maritime interest as well as any threat generating to the island, and also the international obligations, the responsibility that we have.
Starting your naval career as an officer cadet of the 5th intake of Kotelawala Defence Academy, can you please explain us about your naval career, which is now spanning for over 3 decades?
I started as a service cadet at the Kotelawala Defence University. Those days it's called the Kotelawala Defence Academy, into the 5th intake, as you rightly said, on the 21st July 1987. Just a fresh youngster out of school. The previous day I was at the school. Next day I joined into the services. Well, the general basic training as normal to any other officer under trainee anywhere, going through drills, weapons, learning your trade, all that. I was doing okay, and because the KDA system at that time, the first year you train at the academy, and the second year you join your respective service. So I was engaging in water sports mainly at schools also. Right throughout I was connected with the water. So at KDU, I was so determined to, somehow get into the Navy. So I got my choice. And then the naval training went on. Fortunately, I was made the best midshipman out of the lot, and I got the Sword of Honor, what you call. Went back to the KDU, finished my third year and graduated. Since then, the career progress, starting as 2 ICs, fast attack craft, and then getting more experience. Those days we had the surveillance command ship, the Admiral Wickremesinghe. Got my opportunity to serve on board under very good officers, who groomed us well. We had very fortunately have wonderful officers. For example, my first divisional officer was then Captain Vidurupula. He retired as a brigadier. And then Commander Gunanayagam in the Navy, who was my divisional officer when I came to the Navy. They groomed us well and trained us well. And then the career went on, from 2 ICs, then we commanded. I have almost commanded all type of vessels in the Navy, FACs, gunboats, fast passenger craft, fast missile vessels, and the OPVs. OPVs, the bigger vessels that, one will probably, when you as a captain, as your last command at sea. There was a stint that I was, for a longer period, the officer in charge of the diving. And so, then, my ambition of becoming a naval officer, the next step was becoming a diver. Actually, it was more influenced by one of my commanding officers when I started fresh, Captain Bhattava, who was a senior diver at that time. He used to put us in the sea and give us the experience. And then we had this aim of becoming a diving officer. So pursue on that, successful, became a qualified clearance diver, trained from the Indian Navy Diving School in Cochin. So for about 3 years I was officer in charge of diving, did some major salvage work and repairs, underwater repairs, all the things that the diving organization of the Navy does, and went on to become, for about a short period, 1 year I was also a member of the Navy's elite special force, the Special Boat Squadron. And then the COs, XOs, COs. And immediately after the war, I was given the command of the Special Boat Squadron. So I commanded the Special Boat Squadron and, reorganized to face the challenges after the conflict, the newer challenges that the SBS will have to operate in. For example, now chasing drug traffickers at high seas, the boarding concept, all these things. As we were discussing earlier, we were given a lot of this tactical training by various navies, US Navy, Special Forces and SEALs, and also the United Nations, the UNODC. UNODC is also very well connected with us and, giving support and training. So that was SBS. And then landing craft mechanized, the LCM, then the gunboats. Twice I commanded gunboats, fast missile vessel, and Sagar was my last command at sea. It was an OPV. So along the way I did my staff course in USA, and then in Pakistan also I did a principal warfare course. Then I was also the initial directing staff when the combined staff command and staff college started. It was previously the Army Staff College 2007. It became the joint staff at Sapuka So I was one of those initial DSs that, you know, work hard to design those exercises and then the various concepts in that training program. Deputy Area Commander, I was Director Training in the Navy, I was Director Operations in the Navy. Director Operations also had other responsibilities as directorates, for example, the Maritime Surveillance, Foreign Corporations, Maritime Special Operations. So a number of directorates that I had to help as, now by then I was a Commodore. And then my first area was the Southern Naval Command. So from headquarters, you know, leaving the appointment of Director Naval Operations, I straight away took the position of the Commander Southern Naval Area. And from South, I went to North as the Commander Northern Naval Area. And all these areas, you know, working with the community, working with the other government officials and the other militaries, it's a experience, you know, coming up to this level, they naturally making the connections and capacity building to work with the others. From North came as the Chief of Staff of the Navy, that was last year. Here I am as the Commander of the Navy.
So, what is the most unforgettable incident during your naval career, basically during this 30-year-old civil war?
Actually, during the protracted conflict, you know, there are 4 occasions that I survived by the nick, I would say, you know, because it's like this, if the things have gone the other way, I wouldn't be here. One of the things, I mean, it's the foolish thing to do, but there was this incident, you know, we had information coming, the one of the merchant vessels which was to leave, this was somewhere around 1997, 98, probably 98 years. They're going to attack the vessel leaving, so we were at a very high alert. Nothing happened, the vessel left with all the protections around it, but the next day morning when you're searching, we found a contraption which we recognized the you know, man guiding torpedo system. So they have made made an attempt the previous night. So subsequently we got a lot of information afterward. Brought it to the diving unit. I was the officer in charge of the diving unit at the time. Removed the main charge. There was 80 kilos of PE, plastic explosives, and then the electrical switch and the impact switch. Exactly the same impact switch that they use in the suicide boats. So there were incidents that the suicide boats came almost ramming us, but never exploded. You know, few people were so lucky, even though the suicide boat rammed, it did not explode. So I was little curious to see and study the mechanism of this. Took this switch out, you know, went to the workshop. There was another leading diver with me, you know, subsequently left the Navy as a Lieutenant Commander. Both of us start working on it slowly, removing. This was totally against the safety principles when you are dealing with explosives. But we know we need to, you know, study the system. And all of a sudden a bowl came out as we were dismantling it, you know. I realized quickly the mechanism, and luckily I inserted some thing, maybe a screwdriver through the hole. And what happened was, like, you know, there's this firing pin was held by 3 razor bolts on the pressure from the opposite side. So what we have done, all of a sudden released, 2 balls escaped. Luckily, one single ball got stuck and kept the pin from driving, you know, because it was held with the springs tension. And had the other ball also came, you know, it would have gone down and, you know, the plunge onto the 2-2 cap and, you know, explode. Because there are still about 100 grams of explosive. And this was the lucky day. So then I realized, you know, I started sweating all around, getting myself, totally wet everywhere, and went out and calm ourselves for about 30 minutes. Then it was, just a simple game. You realize what exactly, so, we dismantled it.
How old were you like during that time?
Probably about 34, 35, right? So likewise, there are a number of escapes. There was a situation in combat also. I was surrounded by LTT because my FAC got stopped in the middle of them. They kept shooting at us to sink us. Just within 10-15 minutes, another boat came and towed us out of that. And I was electrocuted underwater while doing some salvage work. So practically about a few seconds I was unconscious. So much of experience, and then there's also battle experience that I have brought victories to the Navy. So not just one single incident to say as this is the incident. There are so many.
You talked about the Special Boat Squadron. I actually want to know about basically now in current situation, what is it being deployed the most? I mean, is it only towards drug trafficking, or is it deployed to any other things?
The Special Boat Squadron started particularly during the conflict to fight LTT Sea Tigers on lagoons, shallow lagoon waters, to fight with them with equal platforms or other different tactics. They were even waiting for them in chest deep water, in ambush, and many tactics. From that, it further developed into a very effective littoral fighting force, because towards the latter part of the humanitarian conflict which ended the conflict, we had to bring up the numbers. See, in naval combat, the number of weapons on the both side decides the victor. There is also an equation called the Lancaster equation. So when two forces fights together, how many weapons on the platform and the number of platforms that you can aim at the opposite kind of decide the outcome of the conflict. But then the other the elements as well, because whether if you have your electronically controlled guns that you can go for a more accurate targets and your detection capacity, those also supports. But what happened then, we went on numbers. We changed the LTT concept of coming in larger numbers back onto them, and we built these small arrow boats. Now we call it the Cedric in the name of one of our SBS commanding officers who was killed in action, and the IPCs. So in the littorals, within 2 to 3 nautical miles, we were along with the fast attack craft squadron, because the fast attack craft squadron right throughout was our teeth arm. The people who sacrificed so much and fought against the LTT, but the numbers was not sufficient. But as the time and the space was gradually pruning down, small, we were able to use these small boats, and we built. So the SBS then came onto that. But the SBS alone was not sufficient, so the rapid action boat also trained and brought into that. And they're not only that, they're capable of, as you see in the concept or the similar lines of the US Navy sails, sea, land, and air. They are capable of approaching an area of interest by air or by sea using various surreptitious means, and obtain information and intelligence, or even beach reconnaissance in the enemy area, and even to penetrate and hold an area for the major forces to land. So a very multi-capable special force, that is the Naval Special Force, the Special Boat Squadron. But as you said, currently this challenge came up on the high seas operations where boarding. So they are capable of boarding even under, now there are two kinds of boarding, the forced boarding without any resistance or with resistance. So with resistance probably is under fire. So the SBS is training on that line. So they are being currently used on those, although it is not often under resistance, but the board and check these drug running vessels at high seas. But still they train and maintain on all their capabilities and skills, underwater, surface, and even para training to meet any eventualities if they are called for. That's about SPS.
So now President Ranil Wickremesinghe always talks about the strategic wars, meaning in future there might not be weaponry wars, but there can be strategic wars. So how can Sri Lankan defense policy can be made in order to respond to these strategic wars?
Yes, the defense policy 2030 is something that the all three forces and the other mainly the three defense forces are looking at and currently being developed. And the Navy also, we were talking about our challenges earlier. Now this is when we look at our maritime strategy and how best that we can work on this, and what will be our force capacities, and if our force capacities are going to be reduced, what other supportive elements, force multipliers that we can bring in, electronics for that matter. And also we have been helped with the organizations like International Strategic Studies, the ISG group on this policy work. And we did a few years back our maritime doctrine. The doctrine is how we act, you have your policies and the procedures, so that was done. But it doesn't say that, it stay forever, your time to time you need to revise that. So we'll have to look at that, and also we are working on building the maritime strategy. Very many countries, like the United States, for example, they have their strategies and everything very well prepared and available for studies. But some other countries, they don't have, instead they have white papers. So we are working on the strategies as well, looking at strategies with all these challenges that we are talking about earlier. And these all together will be what included in the 2030 defense policy that His Excellency want us to do. And there are a lot of inputs at the moment for the group who's working on the concepts. And we are also working because the strategy and then the revising of the doctrine, and also to a level what would be the ideal size, the right sizing of the service, looking at the challenges, because this is an island nation and the Navy is very much important, the Navy and the Coast Guard, because as I was telling earlier, we cannot have security threats occurring in our waters, and particularly the sea trade, the merchant marines, the shipping, realizing any threats occurring on our water. So the Navy and the Coast Guard, we are very much important. So we have to look at all those challenges and matchingly put our work out our side of the defense policy in the major context.
What do you think about the current status of military education in Sri Lanka?
I think the military training and education in Sri Lanka probably is better than many of the other countries. The academic education and then the training. When we are looking at what it was previous, because we were concentrating on a specific challenges and training ourselves. Now we are training our officers to be capable and work alone with the similar services, even in the case of the Army or the Air Force and the Navy, so that, professionally capable and in par with similar level of officer in another country, India, Pakistan or US. So, Navy has revived its training programs and training programs, this 5 years, in the 5 years context, revision is necessary to meet the challenges. And looking at the Kotelawala Defense University, what it has become, so much in capacities and the areas of studies. But the training alone will not build a good sailor, naval officer, or in general parlance, or a soldier and officer. You need to have when you come into the service, you need to come in with the patriotic feeling to serve the country. So it has never been a case of simply a job, an employment. All these people who have come before us, and hopefully in the future, you join the service to take that challenge as an adventure and hold that patriotism right throughout your career. Because the militaries, the services will not prevail if the manpower in those organizations, irrespective of officers or men, if you are failing in their patriotism. So, this is a message. In fact, those who are aspiring to become a members as officers or as ratings, you need to have that. But the training is huge. Actually, in the Navy, if you remember, we called ourselves the Mahasayure Sarasavya. That's the level of education that a naval officer receives, not just the studies, but with the experience. So that opportunity is there for anybody to, once you come into the service, polish an extremely good career which future prospects, and having the patriotism to serve the country. But this is also the training of the country's youth. You are not expecting these trained assets to remain in the services forever. No, they, obviously evaporation is necessary at various level. These trained people will get to the other areas, the economic areas of the country as very capable, productive people. This is same in any other countries as well. military training, once given, it's not that, you are expected to be there forever, but that, when you move out of it, you goes there with experience, with very good training and a better leader, so that, you can take up at any challenge, in the government sector or in the private sector. So the military, apart from training for the services to prevail, the military is training the youth to take up positions in the outside as well.
Thank you very much, sir, and that was indeed a great conversation with you.
Thank you very much, Amod. Indeed, it was a pleasure for me as well to express my views on those interesting questions you raised. And thank you very much. Have a good day.
We had with us Vice Admiral Priyantha Perera, Commander of Sri Lanka Navy, joining us on Spotlight on AdaDerana 24. Join us with another episode. Thank you very much.